All right, Trump Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt just took her BS to a completely new level after she accused the father, who was illegally deported to an El Salvador super prison, of being a human trafficker, and she's essentially trying to double down and weave her way out of this mess in any way that she can. And I would make the argument that Caroline Leavitt acts as almost a propaganda arm for the Trump administration. Not even almost. She is somebody who spreads blatant, brazen propaganda, and that's why I find it important to push back, to make sure that our narrative is the one emerging in the mainstream, to make sure that the facts of the case are the one that break through and not whatever she's saying on any given day. So if you support this, make sure you drop a like, comment some blue hearts, and let's just start from the beginning of the presser.
You said case closed yesterday. As that case was closed, do you have anything that you can share about what was learned, how this can be avoided in the future, any sort of findings from that investigation?
The case is closed and the president continues to have confidence in his national security advisor.
Wow, the White House closed the case against themselves, against their own administration. I have a lot of faith in that. Also, the fact that nothing was learned from this, it's almost naive of us to think that something could ever be possibly learned by the Trump administration. But now I want you to watch this clip about Caroline Leavitt getting asked about the stock market rapidly swinging as Trump's unpredictable tariffs kind of freak out investors and business owners alike.
Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. When the president goes down to Florida on the weekends, does he ever hear from, there are so many retired folks down in Florida, does he ever hear from any retired Americans who are stressed about these wild swings in the stock market because of the tariff uncertainty, and they're sitting there on fixed income or living off a 401k, and they don't know how much money's going to be left?
Well, certainly they are legitimate concerns, and the president takes those concerns very seriously.
Does he? Does he take them seriously? Because he's only worsening them. I mean, tomorrow is supposed to be quote-unquote Liberation Day. And, you know, I love how Peter Doocy from Fox News has to ask the question in such a softball way. Like, I could just see how he phrased the question. He's like, when Daddy Trump goes down to Mar-a-Lago, I'm sure there are other old people in Florida, right? Like, just ask her. Ask her straight up, hey, Trump is kind of nuking the stock market due to his uncertainty. Can we get some answers on that?
And he's addressing them every single day. And tomorrow's announcement is to protect future generations of the senior citizens you mentioned. It's for their kids and their grandkids.
Wait a minute. Okay, think about this for 1 second. Trump promised that on day one, he was going to get into office, and on day one, prices would be lower, and he would help out American people who were struggling. People were absolutely struggling. Now they're saying, hey, there's going to be some pain, but your grandkids might feel the benefits of what we're doing. Dude, we just want lower prices. And by the way, there are ways to enact tariffs, or not even tariffs, other economic policies that will help our grandchildren. But if you want to do that, you give, number one, a grace period for manufacturers to come back to the United States. Number two, you don't bully our allies. I mean, I think our grandkids would like to be allies with Greenland and Denmark. Does that not help our grandkids? Does being an ally with Canada not help our grandkids at all? I mean,
to ensure that there are jobs here in the United States of America for their children to live the American dream, just like they presumably did. And as for their worries about their 401ks, their Social Security, I just addressed Social Security. This president is always going to protect it for our tax-paying senior citizens.
I mean, I hope he protects it, absolutely. But the way that Congress is maneuvering around and trying to do this tax cut bill, while conveniently only targeting the sector where Social Security lies, it kind of seems like that's what they're going for. Now, let's watch the main clip. This is the clip that has been making the rounds. There's always that one clip. And it's because Caroline Leavitt gets directly confronted on the story that's blowing up right now. The Trump admin last night admitted in a court filing that they deported the wrong guy and sent him to an El Salvador mega prison. They still won't bring him home. It's absolutely wild. They claim they don't have the jurisdiction to bring him home. They even admitted that they made a mistake. So Caroline Leavitt gets pressed, and she calls it a quote-unquote clerical error. Now, I'll debunk this after, but just keep in mind, this is a father of three who has a disabled child. He's not a clerical error. None of this is a clerical error. I mean,
just changing subjects for 1 second. The administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has conceded that there was an error, of one Salvadoran national. Will there be any reviews conducted, and does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in court last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang.
They haven't demonstrated any evidence of that. The whole purpose of me making this video is to push back. So I'm going to pause to say there is no evidence of that other than an unidentified informant, and even the cops didn't really believe this claim.
That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking.
That has never been alleged anywhere. J.D. Vance didn't say that in his write-up today. In fact, when J.D. Vance sent out a tweet about this, he said this dude had been pulled over for multiple traffic violations. J.D. Vance genuinely cited traffic violations. But Caroline Levitt right here, I'm like 99% sure she just made that up, like right before this presser, or on the spot maybe.
And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated.
There is absolutely no evidence of this. First of all, there's not even any concrete evidence that he was a member. In 2019, it was still iffy, but the idea that he's a leader and he does human trafficking, it's very, very clear what they're trying to do. They didn't afford him any sort of due process, so now they are writing the story for him. Garcia, the dude who got deported, he didn't get to provide any sort of evidence or defend himself, so now the Trump admin is basically injecting their own alternative facts into the situation, saying, hey, this dude was a human trafficker who was the leader of a violent, brutal gang. She's just playing to emotions. And I can't tell you how many times I've had conservatives tell me over the past few years, facts over feelings. You guys just talk about emotions, you liberals. But then anytime we're talking about immigration, they can't take a factual middle ground stance. It's always, oh, I'm so terrified. Get them all out of here. There are too many taco trucks on every corner or whatever the hell. It's racism. Let's check out this clip of Caroline Levitt struggling for her life on stage.
This administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
That is fine. If you want to deport a terrorist, that is fine. But what the administration is doing is not deporting foreign-born terrorists. They are deporting people who are here legally with zero due process. They are violating the Constitution, and it's not a good thing whatsoever. And the annoying part is conservatives are gaslighting about this. I'm sure you've seen this. But basically every MAGA conservative is now making the claim that liberals actually want more violent criminals in the country. Like half of the country that are conservatives believe that liberals want more violent criminals in the country. We just say have due process.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me tell this administration.
Okay, but you have to prove that he's MS-13. Again, it's just so fruitless trying to navigate around Caroline Levitt's tactics. It must be tiring being around Caroline Levitt all the time, or being a journalist in that room. Here is more character assassination from Caroline Levitt.
Thanks, Caroline. A few questions about this deportation case. First, I wanted to clarify something that you said to Jeff a few minutes ago. You said you'd seen evidence that this man was a convicted gang member. In what court was he convicted and for what?
This individual was an MS-13 ringleader. This individual was also engaged in human trafficking. And I'm glad you brought up this point again, because I would like to point out that if you just saw the headline from the insane failing Atlantic magazine this morning, you would think this individual was Father of the Year, living in Maryland, living a peaceful life, when that...
It doesn't matter if he's Father of the Year or not. He gets due process either way. It doesn't matter if he was a mediocre father, if he was Father of the Year, or if he was an absent father. You don't throw someone on a plane and deport them when they are here legally, when they are protected by a court order, and you're sending them to a torturous prison. But by the way, from all the reports that we've heard, this dude is a solid father. He has a child with a disability that he's cared for. I'm sure he's not effing Superman. We're not trying to make it seem like he's Superman, but he's just a good dude who wants to contribute to the country.
That couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't even mention in the title of that article or even in the first paragraph that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13.
He's not illegal. He was here legally. He was protected. And he's not a leader of any gang. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. And you guys have to understand that not one court filing says he was a leader of the gang who was human trafficking. The evidence they have is an unidentified informant in 2019 coming forward and saying, I think this guy is a part of a gang because they were picked up together at a Home Depot. And the judge said, you know, we're not going to send you back and we're going to keep you here protected. We don't know whether you're part of a gang, but you haven't been to El Salvador since 2011, and now you've already integrated here. So think about this. This dude hasn't been to El Salvador since he was 16 years old in 2011. Even if we granted that he wasn't a gang, and this is just hypothetically granting that, that means it was 14 years ago when he was 16 years old, and that means that he was born into a situation, but we don't even have that evidence. Everything they're saying is complete and utter nonsense. It's almost offensive. Check out Caroline Levitt then being asked about Liberation Day.
One more on the tariffs. Can you say what the latest thinking is on the start date? I know you were just in the Oval. Are they all going to take effect this week on the reciprocal tariffs? And whenever they start, is that enough time for companies and everyone involved to adjust to that start date?
My understanding is that the tariff announcement will come tomorrow. They will be effective immediately. And the president has been teasing this for quite some time, as you know. He's talked a lot about April 2nd as Liberation Day in America. It would be taking place today if not for April Fool's Day. But tomorrow will be the day, and he's been talking about it for a while.
He doesn't want to do it on April Fool's Day because he wants to show that he's serious, but he might as well have done it on April 1st anyways, because this is the most unserious economic policy that we've ever seen in the history of the United States. It is offensive, and watch Harris Faulkner talking about how Trump should message about 401ks falling. And I've heard a lot of people say that the stock market isn't really a good indicator because not all Americans are participating. And I agree with that, actually. The stock market is not even the best indicator of how the economy is going, but a lot of Americans do have 401ks. A good amount of Americans do have 401ks, and the stock market can act as a very short-term responsive indicator to what's happening, more so than unemployment reports on a monthly basis, right? So here's Harris Faulkner trying to message about this. I hope they go with this messaging. Just listen.
And those 401k people who are depending, those retirees, all of that, just talking plain speak with them. Look, when this nation used to go to war, people in this country would support the war effort with their materials at home and making things for weaponry and all of that. We got to do 100% buy-in over this bumpy period. Just communicate.
Kaylee.
Who are we going to war with other than potentially Canada, Greenland, Panama? No, but in all seriousness, we're not going to war. We are actually in a solid economic period. Biden handed the Trump admin a solid economy on a gold platter and said, here, it's all yours to do with what you please. You can make the economy skyrocket. Just keep it on a steady pace. That's all you need. And Trump decided, no, economic pain is necessary because maybe our grandkids will benefit from it. And our grandkids won't benefit from it. If he wants our grandkids to benefit, he'd be building stronger alliances with Canada. He'd be strengthening the supply chains. He'd be making sure that we have such a solid alliance that we are number one and our grandkids won't ever have that taken away from them. But now he's lost a bunch of the soft power. Our grandkids might live in the century of China at this pace if China continues to fortify their alliances and the U.S. continues to lose theirs. So, I mean, everything Harris Faulkner was saying there, what, we're going to war? Who are we going to war with? Just because we call it a trade war doesn't mean people have to be at home, like hunkering down, making supplies and gear. It shouldn't have to be like that. We should be living in a prosperous country, and Trump is taking that away. I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe. I love each and every single one of you. I'll see you in the next video, and peace out.